Welcome back, citizens of De Niro Nation, to our smash hit podcast within a podcast. This is the second episode of All Mic'd Up. I'm happy to be here with my co-host, Mike.
Incredibly happy to be here.
And today we have a few letters to respond to. People really came out in droves, and I'm saying that in the relative sense. In response to our Raging Bull episode, I guess we solicited feedback or mail in that episode. I honestly don't remember because it kind of just, it all went by so quickly. It was just a blur. But we received a few great letters in response to that episode that we want to respond to. And then we also have one that snuck through the wire right before we started recording about our Matrix episode. So I'm excited to have a little Matrix chat at the end of this one. Mike, how about you? How you feeling about, I guess, just the Raging Bull episode, the Matrix episode, all mic'd up? Where's your head at?
I loved it all. I especially really thought that The Matrix was really a surprisingly effective episode, considering that you did like 97% of the talking. I thought when I went back and listened to it, I really thought that you carried a lot in the episode. You did a really nice job with the recap, and I feel like you were funny and informative, and I feel like we've been killing it lately. It's been nice.
It really came together much more nicely than I thought it was going to when I was performing the edit. I was really concerned, oh geez, this one is just me talking 95% of the time. And but I think it came out pretty well, and I think you had some fun contributions to the discussion about
Agreed.
that film.
Yep.
That was great. In the Raging Bull episode, big fan of the movie, big fan of the episode. Thought there was a lot of fun, insightful commentary to that one. So I'm excited to dig into what the citizens of De Niro Nation thought. And just in general, as a format sort of thing, I think we both don't intend for All Mic'd Up to only be about responding to listener mail.
Yep.
It's just the way this shook out. But in general, I think we're going to do a lot more different things with this sort of format.
Yeah, I also think that it's important for us to acknowledge, and I suppose you can decide to edit this out if you feel like it shouldn't be acknowledged. But, listeners should not understand the comparatively high production values of this All Mic'd episode to like augur some overall improvement in the production quality of All Mic'd Up. We just happen to be recording this All Mic'd Up episode like we usually record. And so they're usually going to sound more like the one we recorded at the Irish pub and less like these professional sounding ones that are with our normal recording setup.
Sure.
I just don't want people to be disappointed in 2 or 3 weeks when we drop another All Mic'd Up episode and it sounds like shit. But that's got to be the expectation.
I think as long as we are not sitting outside of a noisy bar that is blasting music on outdoor speakers, I think we'll be okay.
I intend to always be sitting outside of a noisy bar that's blasting music on speakers when we record All Mic'd Up. So strap in, baby.
That's why you're not the producer of this podcast. And with that, let's move over to our 3 letters about our Raging Bull episode, the first of which comes from friend and former guest of the pod, Andrew. My taste for meat hasn't changed the same way you both talked about, and in fact, I enjoy meat or protein-forward dishes more than ever now. I still eat steak about once a week, in part because my daughter loves it too. That said, I love vegetables. Most dinners I cook are protein plus veg. I'll only include a starch sometimes, particularly for my daughter. And yes, boiled vegetables are garbage. As for movie ratings, we've also discussed this, and I think everyone has their own system, but it's tough to rate movies in a 5-star system. To me, a 5-star movie has to be nonstop entertaining, memorable, and profound. Once a movie reaches the 5-star pantheon, it has to compete with a lot of others, so at that point, I think it gets more into force ranking. Maybe you have 100 5-star movies you've seen, the bottom 80 are in percentiles, and you have a ranked top 20 that really stand out. This reminds me of rankings in competitive games. Many people rise to the highest master level, but the weakest master pales in comparison to the world champion. Thank you for writing, Andrew. Mike, do you have any reaction to this letter?
That was the end of it?
That was the end of it.
You had some pregnant pauses in the middle of reading it, so I wasn't sure when the ending was going to come. And I got to be honest, that's not what I was expecting to be the last the last line. I mean, I think that's just a general observation about distributions, right? Like in the tails, because as you get out to the tails of a distribution, you're going to have fewer and fewer items in the set out toward those tails. Something that's in the 99th percentile is like 100 times better than something that's in the 90th percentile. So like, yeah, of course, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Sounds good. I'm having steak tonight. That's what I'd say to the first thing. Yep, Caroline's throwing it on the grill downstairs right now.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm not. How often is Andrew's young daughter eating steak? Does he have her on the Fred Flintstone diet or something?
He said once a week. He said it in the letter.
Oh, yeah. I guess I was just so busy assuming, the role of Andrew in that letter that I actually wasn't paying that close attention to the frequency at which his daughter eats steak.
You were too bought into the experience.
I was too bought in. I can't help myself. What can I say?
I mean, I guess it depends on the portion size, right? I mean, if she's having like a 4 or 6 ounce steak once a week, I'm sure that's totally fine. She's getting a lot of exercise. Right?
No. Listen, if you knew Andrew's daughter, you would know she's taken down a 16-ounce ribeye at least.
18-ounce porterhouse every time.
Go for the T-bone. Absolutely.
Andrew, write in next week and tell us. We need more information. What are you feeding Eliana? Are we talking about like a 4 to 6 ounce fillet or like a nice like little flat iron? Or are we talking about like a pound porterhouse? I think those things are quite different. For what it's worth, tonight I'll be having a nice 8 to 10 ounce flat iron. I think that's a nice, respectable portion of steak to have with a vegetable.
I definitely like to go for the 8 ounce. I don't like to overdo it when it comes to steak.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Little goes a long way.
10 ounces, like it's a little rich.
Our second letter today comes from friend of the pod, Philip. Philip writes, De Niro dudes, you asked about the scene from Raging Bull where Jake is making Joey punch him in the face, as you were curious what the point of it was. This scene made me quite uncomfortable, which is surely a sign that it's a good one. I believe that this scene is meant to show early on what kind of man Jake is and what his views on masculinity are. He knows his strength is taking a punch, so he can out any man in that area. The only way to show it off is by getting punched, so there you go. It further works as a show of dominance and superiority in that it makes Joey uncomfortable to do the punching. So Jake is saying, you're uncomfortable with this show of violence, I'm not, I'm the superior man. The irony, of course, being Jake is showing how weak he really is by needing to dramatically show that he isn't. This made me uncomfortable because I've encountered this brand of toxicity before. My question is, have you guys? If not, what was the biggest show of toxic masculinity you've seen firsthand? Friend of the pod, Lips.
You've had time to think about this.
Well, to be clear, he miswrote Lips in his sign-off. He wrote Lipe, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and assuming that he's not trying out a new nickname with that letter.
Yeah, Andrew texted me last night castigating me for not doing pips, and he mistyped it as pipe. So he and Philip must have the same finger disease that's causing them to shift their left thumb up a row when they try to type the S.
It's the silent killer.
I don't know. I would really have to think to try to identify what the most brazen show of toxic masculinity I've encountered is, I guess. But I think that I've encountered this kind of person in my life, right? This kind of like
absolutely
macho, like tough guy loser whose, only way of engaging emotionally with the world is through shows of strength. But I don't know. Like I said, you've known about this letter for at least a couple days. So have you thought of an answer? Do you know what your most brazen show of toxic masculinity is that you've observed?
I can't think of a specific instance necessarily, but I think it's something that was much more common for me to see growing up in K through 12, especially high school, just dealing with the chud bully types of guys that fortunately in adulthood, I have more opportunities to avoid that sort of person. So I think really my primary exposure to toxic masculinity these days is just whenever I'm reading political discourse. And seeing which way the wind is blowing in that direction. But fortunately, it's not something that I'm interacting with personally on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's interesting to wonder, I guess, because I guess that if I had to allude to, contemporary experiences with it, they'd be similar, right? Like you're on social media and you see like the kinds of like toxic comments that people are writing. But how many of the people writing those comments are actually strong in real life? I'd posture a relatively small percentage.
I'm inclined to agree. I think there's a lot of projection that goes on, a lot of posturing that goes on, and you just have to kind of mentally filter it out. And I think it's bad that it's so commonplace, but I definitely don't take any of those people at face value. I understand the importance of anonymity in social media and using the internet, but I would just part of me would love to just have to have like your name and license photo next to every tweet that you make.
not to extend the runtime of this segment potentially unnecessarily, but in light of modern, I guess, American history, right? Like the past 2 to 5 years, I guess. What do you think is the argument for the importance of anonymity in online spaces? Because I think I've kind of come around to feeling pretty strongly in the other direction. I think we'd avoid a lot of the issues we have in the world right now if everybody did have to register with their government ID with every website so that everything they say could be tied to their specific real world identity. I think there's so much about modern political discourse that the implication of this conversation that we're having is just trumped up bullshit from people who would never in a million years actually feel comfortable sharing these opinions if they could be tied back to them specifically. It's very toxic.
I think the argument in favor of anonymity is that it provides a safe space for marginalized peoples to network, collaborate, organize. The question really then becomes, does that outweigh the negatives?
Right.
And that I'm not so sure of, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a difficult situation. Well, there you go. I don't have any anonymous presence on the internet at all. So you can tie it all back to the real me, baby.
There you go. Our third and final letter in response to our Raging Bull episode comes from friend of the pod, Chase. Always a treat to receive an email from him. And Chase writes, "Greetings, Mike, and the De Niro Nation once again. The invitation to write a fan letter in for the Raging Bull episode regarding a favorite Paul Schrader film was simply too good to pass up."
Oh, hell yeah. I'm so excited that I don't read the letters in advance, by the way. It's really nice being surprised by them when we do these recordings.
Yeah, okay.
Man, it's about Paul Schrader?
That's great.
Let's go. Yeah.
Although Paul Schrader is a screenwriter and a director I more respect and admire rather than necessarily gush about overall, it's simply undeniable that he had a handful of stone-cold masterpieces in him, and for me, one of the major peaks of Schrader's artistic output was his experimental 1985 biopic, Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. A brilliant deconstruction of themes like the dangers of reactionary nationalism, identity through the lens of masculinity, the ideological warfare between personal self-expression and the rhetorics of collectivism in Japan before, during, and after World War II. The chronicling of author and artist Mishima Yukio's life is, in some perverse ways, the mirrored real-life parallel of Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. Both men being self-destructive and hedonistic, they were ticking time bombs ready to completely explode under the worst environmental circumstances and factors imaginable for them. Paul Schrader, having battled an oppressive religious and conservatively strict upbringing from his parents, could, on a universal level, relate to Mishima's struggles of reconciliation or acceptance with who he was in a defeated country modernizing through gentrification and having to abandon the devastating rhetoric of its militaristic past. The portrait of an influential artist and writer capable of great fiction and conceiving moving portrayals of the human experience wasn't lost in the process, which is all the more remarkable with the points of criticism Schrader opens up and welcomely engages with the flawed person he depicts. It's not a vilifying portraying either, so the moral and gray ambiguity conveyed is so rich and all-encompassing too. The camera work by John Bailey, the production/art design of Ishioka Aiko, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these things, and the score by Philip Glass all culminate with such feverishly vivid beauty. If you haven't given it a watch, by all means check it out. It's a film that gets my highest recommendation. As for the Ask Us Anything prompt, I'll throw in something mildly related to the fan letter regarding non-Asian filmmakers tackling Asian culture with certain films. If I had to throw in another film recommendation as a palate cleanser for Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters Intensity, Wim Wenders' Perfect Days is the best relaxer I can think. Most chill film ever made in the current decade. Question here. Why do you think certain regionally and culturally distinct subgenres are impossible to make good films out of in the West, such as the samurai film or the mecha genre film? And that is the conclusion of Chase's letter.
Wow. Okay. Who's going to respond first, you or me?
Please, feel free to jump in. I feel like I just said so much.
Sure. I'll just, I'll address it all, right? So the first thing I'm going to address is, I really want to watch Perfect Days. It's on my watch list. I was really, really taken by the trailers for it. Was it a 23 film, I think, right? So in 22 or whatever, when I was seeing trailers for it. And I actually almost watched it the night before last. But
really?
It just seemed like I did. Yeah, it was close. It was right on the bubble. But it just seemed I was feeling a little bit I was just feeling a little down, I guess. And I didn't know if I had something that I expect to find as profound and emotionally affecting as I think I will Perfect Days in me. So I decided to watch Maxine instead. Max triple X Een, which, it's interesting. It was kind of panned relative to the first two films in the X trilogy.
Yeah.
But I actually liked it the best. I think because in general, I think all of those films are bad. But I found it the most stylish.
Then why did you watch the trilogy?
Well, I mean, I already watched the first one, right? And then I didn't really like the first one that much, but people say the second one is better than the first one. So I was like, well, I have to give that a try. So I watched that and I liked it less than I liked the first one. And then I had to finish it. It took me a year and a half to watch the third one after watching the second one. Like, it's not like I wasn't in a hurry to get there, so I will watch Perfect Days. It's just, it's moving up the mountain, Chase. Thanks for the recommendation. Seems like a really, really nice film. Mishima. I love that film. I agree. It's one of Paul Schrader's great films. Mike and I actually watched it together on January 2nd, 2024. So almost 2 years ago. And, as I look back on my Letterboxd rating, I gave it 4.5 stars because I feel like it was one of those films that I really needed to let sit with me. And it's one of those that I feel quite confident if I went back to, I would give 5 stars. Like plenty of films that we've reflected on in this podcast. I had a recent experience with a film like that, Inside Llewyn Davis, that I recommended on the pod, and Mike and I both watched it by way of follow-up to my recommendation. And I'd given it 4 stars when I first saw it, but always knew that if I watched it again, the things that I'd found that I appreciated about it in retrospect would bump it up to 4.5. And I know Mishima is the same for me. It's such a beautiful film, isn't it? It's just almost unbelievably visually striking. That's a question for you, Mike, not for Chase. He can't answer.
Yeah, Mishima, like Mike said, I watched it with him and a friend of the pod, Caroline, on January 2nd, 2024.
Friend of the pod, Andrew, was also there, in case you don't recall.
Did I? I guess I don't have an Andrew tag. I thought he was there, but I didn't have a tag.
Yeah, we watched a lot of movies that long weekend. That he was up here. Yeah.
If it's like that scene from the Star Wars prequels. If it's not in the archives, it doesn't exist. That's how it is with my Letterboxd tags. Sorry for the Andrew erasure. Know that I hold you deep in my heart. But Mishima is a film that I correctly gave 5 stars upon my first watch because I am neither a rube nor a dupe. And I maintain a list on Letterboxd, that's letterboxd.com/MikeBackAtYou, where each year I rank every film that I've seen for the first time. And in my 2024 ranked list, Mishima came out at number 3 overall in a list of 191 films. That is how good I think Mishima is. It was only beaten out by Michael Mann's Thief, and the number 1 spot was taken by the original The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. So definitely in rarefied air, an absolute masterpiece. Yep. Yeah. Highly recommend Mishima. I don't know if I'll ever come to that recommendation organically through one of the De Niro slot films that we watch for this podcast, but yes. But Mike, do you have any sort of response to Chase's question at the end?
Yeah, I have kind of a cop-out answer, and I think that it is both the correct answer and also like totally uninteresting and uninformative as an observation. I think that there's some quality of culture and of artistic expression and of the ways that people come together and ideas come together in people's minds that is totally ineffable, like impossible to quantify and also impossible to recreate. That just to me is like the only way I can explain that, because it's true, right? And like you gave 2, I think very obvious examples of types of story that seem to only work well, when they come out of Japan, but there's stuff like that in every artistic culture. And I can't think of why that would be a truism about artistic creation other than why I said. So I don't know. It's meaningless, right? Like my observation, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. I think it's just something that we could not possibly quantify about Japanese culture and experience that makes people from that culture able to tell those kinds of stories in a way that just nobody else can for some reason. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? What have you ever thought about this before?
No, I completely agree, especially as regards to the mecha genre. The only mecha film, the only Western mecha film I can think of liking is the original Pacific Rim. I love that film. It's a ton of fun. Yep. But in general, I think there's just those genres, like the ones Chase highlighted, the samurai genre, the mecha genre, they're so deeply embedded in Japanese culture and Japanese anxieties about technology, war, the national trauma post World War II, that when you watch a show like Neon Genesis Evangelion, or you watch a movie like Pat Labor 2, they're not just about cool robots fighting. They have all of this cultural context that we simply cannot engage with in the West in the same way as someone who is Japanese. I think that in general, we haven't had many good mecha films or samurai films because there's just a tendency to emulate the style without understanding the undercurrent, the thematic undercurrents of those sorts of films. But yeah, I just don't think we could possibly do it the same way. I think at best you can hope to transpose the way that a film like Yojimbo was transposed to the spaghetti western A Fistful of Dollars. Even Pacific Rim, which I think is a very successful film, it's
a sterility to it.
Yeah, it's a love letter to the genre. It's not quite the same thing. It never can be. I mean, that's okay. It's still a great film, but yeah, I don't think it can ever be the same thing.
Did you take notes on this?
Yeah, I wrote some notes.
I saw you looking at your fucking notes.
Yeah,
that's
so
bullshit.
What? So what? Why? What's the problem with that?
Because I don't get to read the letters in advance.
You can read the letters.
Notes.
No one's stopping you from reading the letters.
I won't. Yep.
No one's stopping you from doing that. He wrote.
I want you to stop reading the letters, I think. I think we should both go into the letters cold. Because it's not like we have to publish it. If you read it and there's something horrible in it, we could just choose not to publish it. It's not like we're live. I think that we could both experience the letters for the first time on the air.
Sounds unnecessarily complicated to me. Hey,
I don't
citizens.
know what to tell you. You sounded so smart right there. And I was just thinking, like, I was so impressed. I was like, wow, this is like some like peak Mike back at you.
I don't understand why you had to break the fucking illusion.
Is he just off the cuff here? Well, you don't have to. I assumed you wouldn't post this in the episode. But like, I was so impressed. And then I saw your eyes, your sweet little eyes darting down your notes. And I was like, oh, he's reading off fucking notes. Right. No wonder his points are so well organized and well articulated.
Oh my God.
Very well said, though. I agree. You said it much better than I could, I think.
I think you did a good job. I wasn't... Listen, that is a critical difference between you and me as co-hosts. I never break kayfabe. I will never break the illusion. I'll only ever call you out for touching your microphone, which, to your credit, I have not seen you do lately.
It's been months, I think.
That's
I touched my microphone. Yep. I mean, I think we've gotten really good. The podcast sounds great.
Oh, yeah, it sounds nice.
Why don't you guys write into ourherodeniro@gmail.com and tell us if you think the podcast sounds good. But critically, don't tell us if you don't think it sounds good. You don't need that kind of discouragement. Yeah,
don't
only
discourage
compliments,
us.
Please.
Lift us up. Damn it. Well, thank you. Thank you for the letter, Chase. Very insightful as always.
Agreed. Great letter.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't take any notes for the last one. This last letter, we're switching gears and we are moving away from Raging Bull and towards the Matrix. That very special birthday episode. A friend of the pod, Andrew, wrote us a letter about the Matrix episode. Andrew writes, "Really enjoyed the detour to talk about one of my favorite movies. This is definitely a 5-star for me, though I don't think I enjoy it to the level of Mike Back at You. I disagree with Fab that the philosophy of the movie is pedestrian. This is an accessible action movie to be enjoyed by a broad audience, so that scope may be a bit limited, but in the movie's full context, I think it works. That's not to say that an action sci-fi movie can't rise to a higher level philosophically. Wrath of Khan does, and it's a superior movie in my opinion. Still, I really enjoy all aspects of The Matrix, especially the action, and I do think that coming from a software engineering background helps me to appreciate the plot on another level. I like The Matrix Reloaded. I think that sequel independently has some of the greatest action scenes ever filmed, but it answers the question of how much can you really appreciate the action if you're not drawn into the rest of the movie. I also don't like what they did with Morpheus' character in the sequel or with Neo's powers. Just like George Lucas said, no one understands the Force, it seems like no one understands the Matrix." Well, Andrew, thank you for that Matrix-related letter. It makes me very happy to be able to continue thinking about that film in the wake of that very special episode. Mike, what's your gut reaction to Andrew's letter about the Matrix?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to explain to you that it's pedestrian, Andrew, but that's okay. There's plenty of things that you're smarter about than me. But that being said, I strongly agree with your observations about the sequels. And I think it's interesting to credit that quote to George Lucas. I'm assuming you're doing a little bit ironically, because I think that the Matrix sequels fail for much the same reason that the Star Wars prequels fail, is that they elucidate something that is meant to be thinly sketched, you know? Like, what makes the original Star Wars trilogy so compelling is just like, it's just like the Force. Who cares? Don't really think about it too much, you know? Similarly, like, the reason why The Matrix works really well is because they explain the rules, and the nature of the rules they explain is largely mechanical. There's not like a lot of mythologizing or like exploration of the specific fabric of the Matrix or anything. And it's just like fun. And then you do the fun action and it's great. We understand the rules of the universe. We understand the motivations of the characters. Let's have some like really fun gunfights. And it's like a really fun action movie in the back half. The sequels don't do that. They start getting into like the politics of Zion and like the architect and like all this bullshit. And it's like, who fucking cares? Like, honestly, like, who cares? And that's the same thing with the Star Wars prequels and the midichlorians and all that bullshit, the Jedi Council and the politics of Coruscant. Who cares? Like, oh my God, it's like lifeless and boring. So hard cosign on your second point. I completely agree with that observation. What do you think, Mike?
Sure. Yeah. I actually, after I rewatched The Matrix twice in 2 days, a few days later after I finished editing that episode of the podcast, on my actual birthday, I went ahead and rewatched The Matrix Reloaded for the first time since we did Matrix Mondays on my Twitch channel back in 2021. And I have to say, I agree with everything you said about The Matrix Reloaded. I think every criticism I've ever leveled against it still holds true, but holy shit, that movie fucking rules. And it's just a shame that Revolutions is so boring and shits the bed so badly, because Reloaded, yeah, listen, it's overstuffed. It is simultaneously campier and more pretentious than the original. It explains things that don't need to be explained. There are a few unfortunate instances of CGI body doubling that haven't aged well, but my God, what it does well, it does so well. The action is spectacular. I don't want to get into it too much. Suffice it to say that if you, the citizens of De Niro Nation who are listening to this episode of All Mic'd Up, ever want Mike and I to have a loose conversation about the Matrix sequels, Reloaded and Revolutions, definitely petition us, email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com, message us in some way, and I would be happy to rewatch Reloaded and Revolutions and have that conversation, because I think they are very fascinating for what they are trying to accomplish.
I'm a Matrix Reloaded liker. I think it's a nice movie. It just isn't nearly as good as the first one.
No,
that's fine. It's
sad.
Nice.
I did
it's
actually.
A heart from me,
yeah,
for sure.
I actually upgraded my rating of it from a 4.5 to 5. I just didn't care anymore. I was like, listen,
I think that's fucking insane.
I understand how flawed it is. I understand how flawed it is.
When I think about the masterpieces that you've given 4.5 stars, and you're just jizzing 5 stars on the Matrix Reloaded.
There is a tilt factor that is applied to vibes movies. When we think about cool vibes films like that maybe are complicated or fail in some way structurally or plot-wise, whatever, I think about films like Tenet or Michael Mann's 2006 Miami Vice film, or Michael Mann's 2015 film Black Hat, where they're just so cool and I'm so engaged and I'm so drawn in by what the director's trying to do that everything else just kind of falls by the wayside and doesn't bother me.
Did you give Black Hat 5 stars?
I gave it 4.5. But I feel like if I rewatch it, and I inevitably will, I might upgrade it because it's just that fucking cool. Well, I'm not going to do it anytime soon, but when I do.
No, I just mean like, well, you've seen it 4 times, right? At least. Because you watched it, then you watched it with me, then you watched it with Terry, then you and me watched it a few months ago. You've seen it 4 times, and one of those times was like 3 months ago. But now you think you might adjust your rating up to 5 stars? That doesn't make any sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because what new have you learned? No time has passed.
I am thinking back on it fondly.
All right.
Originally, the first time I watched it, I gave it 4 stars, and then I upgraded it to 4.5, and perhaps I will escalate again.
I think I probably gave Black Hat 4 stars. Well, no, I gave it 4.5. That was an upgrade this last time, I think.
Okay, then. So what the fuck difference is there?
Never mind. I'm just being pedantic. Whatever.
Well, That's all the letters we have for this special episode of All Mic'd Up.
It was an honor to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to engage with the citizens in this way and respond to their thoughtful letters, some of which even included a question. And I look forward to
one of which.
Well, sure. Yeah, and I look forward
Chase
to
stay winning as our best letter writer, honestly. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say as I close this out?
No, that's it. Man. It's nice to be here with you guys, and we'll see you next week for comes out next week.
Doesn't matter. Our next regular episode. You don't actually have to say the name.
It's New York, actually.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, goodbye, everyone. Oh boy. Well, we'll see you next time.